Every morning, a silent, invisible audit takes place just beyond your windowpane. As the first faint light cuts through the dense gray mist, the suburban landscape transforms into a high-stakes arena of surveillance. We tend to view our backyards as simple spaces of casual refuge, places where colorful feathers and pleasant songs offer a fleeting connection to the wild. But if you look closer, past the brilliant plumage and the frantic activity at the feeder, you will find something far more complex. You are being watched, categorized, and memorized. A network of sharp, highly sophisticated minds is mapping your daily routine, clocking the exact second you open your door, and measuring the precise physical distance of your stride. This is not the chaotic, reflex-driven world of basic animal instinct. This is a highly calculated theater of urban cognitive adaptation, where survival depends entirely on a bird's capacity to decode human behavior. For decades, traditional ornithology dismissed the avian mind as a rigid, primitive machine, forever trapped in the evolutionary basement of hardwired responses. The very phrase bird brain became a cultural shorthand for absolute intellectual vacancy. Yet modern neurobiology has completely shattered this orthodox view, revealing that underneath those fragile, lightweight skulls lies a dense, hyper-efficient neural architecture. Some of these backyard visitors possess a forebrain packed with a staggering concentration of neurons, a structural density that rivals, and sometimes surpasses, many non-human primates. They do not just react to our world, they actively analyze it, solving complex geometric puzzles and executing long-term strategies that challenge our unique monopoly on abstract thought. The true mystery isn't whether these creatures are intelligent, but rather which one of them truly rules the psychological hierarchy of our modern, human-dominated landscapes. To discover the absolute pinnacle of this hidden cognitive world, we have to establish a rigorous comparative framework. We must strip away our human biases and grade these species through the lens of pure evolutionary problem-solving. This requires us to look at four distinct, scientifically verified intellectual benchmarks. First, we examine spatial memory, the internal mapping system that allows a bird to remember thousands of individual locations across a shifting, seasonal landscape. Second, we look at tactical innovation, the raw ability to invent entirely new feeding behaviors on the fly when faced with unprecedented structural obstacles. Third, we measure social complexity, the capacity to read the intentions of rivals, form political alliances, and pass abstract knowledge down through generations. And finally, we test for a concept once thought uniquely human, the theory of mind, the deeply sophisticated ability to attribute mental states, motives, and secret knowledge to other living beings. When we stack our most common backyard visitors against this uncompromising neurological rubric, the results completely upend everything we thought we knew about the natural world. Consider the common mourning dove, a frequent visitor to the rusted iron tray of the backyard feeder. With its soft, buff-colored breast feathers and a low, rhythmic coo that vibrates through the humid morning air, it seems entirely peaceful. Yet from a cognitive standpoint, the dove represents the absolute baseline of our countdown, a creature forever bound to the immediate present. Watch one as it searches for food on a gravel driveway. It moves with a mechanical, repetitive tilt of its small, rounded head, its dark eyes wide and fixed. When a shadow flickers overhead, the dove bursts into the air with a loud, frantic whistling of wings, a purely hardwired, panic-induced escape reflex. It cannot plan for tomorrow, nor can it unravel the mechanism of a closed container. If a pile of golden millet is hidden beneath a thin sheet of clear plastic, the dove will peck uselessly at the transparent surface, unable to comprehend the spatial barrier or innovate a way around it. It relies entirely on sheer numbers, rapid reproduction, and an abundance of easily accessible seeds to survive. It is a highly successful evolutionary design, certainly, but one that operates on a rigid, pre-programmed loop, lacking the fluid, creative intelligence needed to navigate the deeper complexities of a changing environment. A sudden, sharp contrast arrives with the frantic, erratic chattering of the black-capped chickadee, a tiny, kinetic force of nature darting through the pine needles. Weighing no more than a single coin, This bird carries a dark, glossy cap and a pale white cheek patch that cuts through the deep green shadows of the forest edge. Do not let its microscopic size deceive you. The chickadee is a master of spatial mechanics. As autumn approaches and the cold wind begins to rustle the dry, fallen leaves, the chickadee's brain undergoes a profound, almost miraculous biological transformation. To prepare for the brutal scarcity of winter, its hippocampus, the critical region responsible for spatial memory, physically expands, growing by a massive percentage through the rapid birth of brand new neurons. This biological expansion powers a mental time travel machine, allowing the chickadee to hide thousands of individual sunflower seeds across a vast territory and recall each specific location months later. It remembers the exact crevice in a rotting birch log, the tiny peeling flap of rough cedar bark, and the precise underside of a frozen gutter. Yet while its memory is an absolute marvel of natural engineering, the chickadee remains heavily specialized. If you alter the physical landmarks around its hidden cache, its internal map falters, revealing an intelligence that is brilliantly adapted for a single critical survival task rather than broad, creative problem-solving. Suddenly, a brilliant flash of cobalt blue cuts through the gray canopy as a blue jay drops heavily onto a sturdy oak branch. With a sharp, prominent crest that rises and falls with its shifting emotional state and a fierce, black-collared throat, the jay exudes a palpable, nervous energy. This is a member of the corvid family, a lineage renowned for its massive brain-to-body ratio, and the shift in cognitive capability is instantly undeniable. Watch a blue jay manipulate its surroundings. It does not merely forage, it investigates. If it encounters a closed wooden box containing a cache of raw peanuts, it will not peck aimlessly. Instead, it tilts its head, using its heavy wedge-shaped beak as a lever, testing the edges, feeling for a weakness in the structure until it coaxes the lid open. In controlled laboratory settings, these striking birds have been observed tearing strips of discarded newspaper from the floor of their enclosures, deliberately folding the paper with their feet, and using it as a rake to pull distant food pellets within reach. This is true tool manufacture, a spontaneous cognitive leap that requires a bird to visualize an object not for what it is, but for what it could become. They are highly adaptive opportunists, using their loud, harsh screams to mimic the calls of red-tailed hawks, deliberately triggering mass panic among smaller birds to clear the feeder and claim the prize entirely for themselves. But as impressive as the jay's calculated opportunism appears, it pales beside the eerie, hyper-focused intellect that watches from the highest point of the suburban canopy. High up on a frost-covered power line, silhouetted against the pale bleached sky, sits a solitary American crow. Its plumage is a dense, absolute black that absorbs the morning light, and its large, slightly curved beak possesses a heavy, formidable weight. It does not hop frantically like the chickadee, nor does it scream like the jay. It simply sits perfectly still, its deep obsidian eye tracking a human walking along the concrete sidewalk below. The crow is not merely waiting for a handout. It is executing a continuous, real-time facial recognition protocol. It ignores the casual stroller who keeps their head down, but the moment a human turns their gaze directly toward its perch, the crow's entire posture shifts. Its muscles tense, its feathers sleek down, and it utters a low, guttural click, a precise linguistic marker that signals danger to its hidden companions. This creature has crossed a profound cognitive threshold. It has graduated from basic environmental awareness to an active, relentless study of human psychology, treating our species not just as a random element of nature, but as a complex variable that can be decoded, manipulated, and outsmarted. This intense scrutiny of the human face is not a fleeting observation. It is the foundation of a multi-generational intelligence network. For a crow, a human face is a complex map of potential intent, classified permanently into categories of friend or foe. To prove this extraordinary cognitive depth, field researchers don specific, distorted rubber masks before capturing, banding, and safely releasing wild crows. Years after this single, brief encounter, the researchers returned to the same suburban parks wearing those exact same masks. The reaction from the canopy was immediate and terrifying. Crows that had never even been hatched at the time of the original study burst from the trees, forming a chaotic, screaming mob that trailed the masked humans across entire city blocks. The original birds had not only retained a flawless, permanent image of the hostile face, but they had also translated that abstract visual information into a highly specific cultural narrative. They passed this terrifying legend down to their mates, their offspring, and their neighbors through a complex dialect of vocal alerts and physical demonstrations, ensuring that an enemy of the past remained an enemy of the modern flock. This ability to teach across generations moves us directly into the ultimate tier of our backyard intellectual hierarchy, where the line between animal instinct and conscious trickery begins to blur completely. To find the undisputed monarch of this psychological landscape, we must look to a bird that carries a heavy, almost prehistoric weight. The common raven, with its massive, thick-set beak fringed by coarse, bristling feathers, and a deeply wedged tail that cuts an imposing silhouette against the sky, represents the absolute zenith of avian neurobiology. Where other birds see an impossible obstacle, the raven sees a riddle to be solved through pure internal mental trial and error. Nowhere is this fluid intellect more apparent than in the execution of the classic string-pulling experiment. A piece of raw meat is suspended from a high tree branch by a long, free-swinging string, leaving the food dangling far out of reach in midair. For almost any other creature, this puzzle induces a loop of useless frustration. But watch a wild raven approach the branch. It does not fly at the meat blindly. It sits quietly for several long moments, its dark, glossy head tilting as it calculates the physical mechanics of the problem. Then with absolute precision, it reaches down with its beak, pulls a single loop of the string upward, places its heavy, scaly foot firmly onto the loop to hold it in place, and repeats the sequence. Step by step, pull by pull, it systematically reels the food upward. The raven has never encountered a string or a pulley in the depths of the primordial forest, yet it can mentally simulate the entire sequence of cause and effect before its beak ever touches the cord. This is not the slow, painful process of trial and error learning. It is an instantaneous flash of insight, a conscious realization of how independent physical objects can be forced to interact to achieve a distant goal. Yet, it is the raven's mastery of social espionage that truly separates it from the rest of the avian world, pushing it squarely into the realm of the theory of mind. In the brutal, unforgiving wilderness, a raven's survival depends on its ability to hide food caches from its fiercely competitive rivals. If a raven is caching a piece of scavenged meat and notices that another raven is watching from a nearby fence post, its behavior instantly shifts into a masterclass of psychological deception. It will deliberately lead the competitor away, making elaborate fake caching movements behind a dense thicket of brambles, pushing its beak into the dirt and covering an empty hole with dry leaves. Meanwhile, the actual prize remains safely concealed deep within its beak, to be buried later in absolute secrecy when the spy is finally out of sight. This means the raven understands a profound, abstract concept. It knows what its rival can see, it predicts what that rival intends to do, and it takes active, deceptive steps to manipulate the thoughts and future actions of another living mind. When we step back and review the entire blueprint of backyard intelligence, the true extent of this cognitive gap becomes overwhelmingly clear. We begin at the absolute floor of the hierarchy with the mourning dove, a creature beautifully designed for a simple, reactive existence, yet fundamentally trapped within a rigid, hardwired behavioral loop. We ascend through the miraculous, single-minded specialization of the black-capped chickadee, whose very brain physically reshapes itself to conquer the challenges of spatial geography. We witness the bold, tool-crafting opportunism of the blue jay, a bird that bends the physical objects of our urban waste to its immediate will. And finally, we cross the threshold into true higher cognition with the American crow and the common raven, creatures that possess the terrifying ability to decode human faces, pass abstract history down through generations, and read the secret, hidden motives of their peers. The next time you step outside into the quiet cool of the morning and hear that familiar rhythmic chattering echoing from the old oak tree, Do not look away so quickly. Stop, stand perfectly still, and feel the distinct weight of those obsidian eyes locking onto your movement from the high wires above. You are not just a casual observer looking out at a simple pastoral scene of suburban nature. You are an active participant in a complex, ongoing intelligence test, and the creatures watching you from the canopy have already memorized your next move.